My father was chased by a killer.
This is my father's story. As a child, my father was a paperboy and he would get up very early in the morning to deliver them. My father would always end up with a few extra papers, so at the end of his route, he would offer papers to the other early birds leaving for work and whatnot. On this day, my father offered a man who was sitting in a parked van. The man just stared at my dad and didn't respond, so my dad just went on his way. As my dad was walking away, he heard a car door open and the sound of feet hitting pavement. He turned around and saw the man running after him. My dad was very athletic in his day. He played basketball and baseball, so he took off running. The man chased him for a bit, but my dad knew the neighborhood like the back of his hand and cut through backyards and hopped fences. He eventually lost the man and got home safely. He didn't tell his parents because he figured they would make him quit. A few weeks passed by and 2 local boys went missing and their bodies were found at a campground. They were raped and then shot in the head. The man who committed the awful crime was William J. Wright. When my father saw him in the newspapers, he recognized him as the man who chased him. Here is an article about the murders.
My underwear thief and their return on the anniversary of the first incident.
This was June of 2010. I was 20 and living in a townhouse with my mom and younger sister. I had stayed the night with my boyfriend and I had just gotten home and taken a shower. I went in my room to grab some undies from a basket of clean laundry that I'd personally folded and brought up to my room myself the day before. That's when I noticed the underwear I'd grabbed had the crotch cut out. I thought it was weird, but figured they got caught on something in the dryer, until the next pair was cut too, and the next. All in all, there were 5 pairs with the crotch cut out. I ran downstairs and showed my mom. She was freaked out too, but we were hoping to find a reasonable explanation. We looked in the washer, dryer, and the laundry basket for the missing pieces of underwear. Found nothing, so we decided to file a police report. The cop came, looked at my cut-up underwear, and bagged up a pair to take back to wherever evidence is taken. He also mentioned it looked like the crotches were torn with a pocket knife maybe, because of the way the fabric was ripped. He did a quick look around the house looking for any signs of forced entry or whatever, and that's when we realized the kitchen window was unlocked and the screen was half popped off. Obviously, he said to keep doors and windows locked and suggested changing locks just in case, but since we couldn't come up with anybody who we suspected, since I hadn't noticed any freaking stalkers, he just took the report and bagged the underwear and that was that. Until the next June. I came home one afternoon after staying with the same boyfriend, and I think I'd been home for a couple of hours before going into my underwear drawer and noticing one pair on top with the crotch cut out the exact same way as the last year. It was a pair I know I bought after the first incident, and I'd thrown away all the cut pairs from before. Didn't want the reminder. I flipped and called for a cop to come out again. This cop didn't seem to care at all though. Did a bullshit walk around the house, took my report, and that was it. I moved out 2 months later. I was not about to live there next June. We lived in a good neighborhood, but I felt watched or something because how did they always know when I would be in my room? My mom and I suspect her former co-worker's creepy as fuck husband, but never had proof. I only remember my underwear thief like twice a year because it's very unsettling knowing the crotches of my underwear are in some creep's possession, probably to this day, but Let's Not Meet reminded me and I thought it was fitting.
Woman with a crowbar.
This is a story about my mom. She has been living in the same house for about 12 years. It's in a shady neighborhood, lots of gang activity, and sirens can always be heard not far away. I can't count the number of times the convenience store across the street has been robbed since we moved in. But we were never concerned. My mother created an unquestionably comfortable home, and I always felt safe. In 2013, when my father died, she adopted a dog for company, as it was just her living in the house at the time of when this incident occurred. The dog is yappy, sweet as hell, but any sort of noise outside, whether it's a car door slamming or our mailman, she will bark, and bark, and bark, and bark. This can be scary if it catches you off guard, or if it's late at night, but of course it's also reassuring that she is so alert. And that's exactly what happened. My mother told me it was late one night, maybe 2 a.m. She was getting ready for bed. She stays up late watching Investigation Discovery and the like. There are 2 doors that must be open to get inside the house. The front door has a large window and opens into a porch where she keeps her deep freeze. There is a larger metal door after the porch which opens directly into the living room of her house. She locks it every night before she goes to bed. She likes to sleep on the couch in the living room. She claims her bed upstairs hurts her back. All of a sudden, her dog started barking her head off. At first, my mom scolded her, assuming she heard a car pass by or something. But then my mom heard it too. Someone was knocking on the front door. The doors had muffled the sound of the knock. My mom sat there silently contemplating what to do and hoping whoever it was would just go away. But it persisted, as her dog did. Now, my mother wasn't born yesterday. She's a tough old bird and won't take anyone's shit. She opened the metal door and went to the window. Lifting the blinds, she saw a disheveled girl standing on the front step. My mother thought she was perhaps drunk as she was unsteady on her feet and slurred when she spoke. My mom asked her what she wanted. "Is Danielle here?" the woman asked. "No, there is no one here by that name." My mom responded politely as she dropped the blinds and was about to go back into the house. The woman pounded on the door this time, with force. Lots of force, in fact. My mom thought she'd been kicking it. "Let me in," she screamed. At this point, my mom is irked. She goes back to the front door, lifts the blinds again, and adamantly tells this woman to fuck off, that there is no one here named Danielle. This woman finally left, but it wasn't until the next day that my mom realized the trouble that she could have been in if she had opened the door. Her front yard is surrounded by a short metal fence, about waist high. She gives us hell anytime we forget to close the gate, and when she was retrieving the morning paper, she noticed this woman had left the gate open. Annoyed again, she put on her slippers to go outside to close it. That's when she saw it. Laying on the grass beside our walkway was a crowbar. My mom then understood what force was used to pound on our front door. She had no idea the woman had been holding it. The window itself can see a person on the other side from about the chest up, and it had been dark. Who knows what could have happened if my mother decided to open the door?
I was almost kidnapped on a run.
This happened when I was about 18 years old. I was big into running back then and lived in a town that was a suburb but had big swaths of farmland, as in smallish tomato and strawberry fields, not huge, never-ending wheat fields. I preferred running on the dirt at the edges of these fields because it was a lot easier on my legs than running long distances on concrete or asphalt, and I was usually training for half marathons. 13.1 miles for those of you who aren't insane enough to think running is fun. This particular day I was planning to run an easy 6 miles. I told my mom and she suggested I do a loop and meet them at the dog park about 3 miles from our house as my halfway point. This is pre-cell phone era, when all the craziest shit went down. But being careful, I took a walkie-talkie my dad always used, and my mom took the other one. Now, the walkie-talkie had a range longer than the ones my brother and I played around with when we were younger, but it definitely did not work 3 miles away, and I honestly had no idea what its exact range was. So I take off on my run. I'm planning to go on the sidewalk for a little bit until I get to the fields. I think it was lettuce or something then, but small, short plants. I'm running in the dirt with the road a few yards to my left. I have to run south and then turn right onto a slightly smaller, less traveled road to get to the dog park. As I'm running on the first dirt part, my parents drive by, and being dorks, they honk and wave and yell at me. I wave and then soon after make my turn onto the smaller road. This one is road, me on flat dirt, small drainage ditch, forever of lettuce field, and then a wall that is the backyard of some houses. I start noticing how quiet this street is and how few cars are passing me by. Then I randomly start thinking to myself, if someone tried to do something to me, I could run to those houses. No, they're so far away. I'd never make it. Then I hear a car, but this one doesn't pass me like all the others. I hear it slow down so that it's behind me, just out of my peripheral vision. My senses go super alert and I immediately realize what a dumbass I was to pick this route because I'm stuck out here with no one to help me and nowhere to hide. The car starts speeding up enough so that it's next to me, and I glance over and see a man, middle age, white, dark hair, totally normal looking, but I get a chill down my spine immediately. He sort of leans over into the passenger seat and says in a super sweet voice, "Hi, where are you going? Do you need a ride?" I am scared and I realize this is not good. Admittedly, nothing has happened yet and he could be totally innocent just wanting to chat, but my intuition is in overdrive telling me I'm not safe. I hop over the ditch thinking at least that will make it harder for his car to follow me if I need to take off across the field to try to make it to those houses in the distance. This pisses him off. He guns it and gets closer to the ditch and in front of where I am, and then he says in a voice I can only describe as bone-chillingly evil, "You know, you shouldn't be out here all alone. Something horrible could happen to you out here, and no one would ever know where to find you. He has put his car in park and is taking off his seatbelt when I remember the walkie-talkie. This piece of crap is all static because I'm too far away, so I immediately turn down the volume and say loudly, "Hey, Dad, yeah, I see your car. I'm over here by this red Buick. Do you see me?" Fake wave to no one. There was no car coming from the direction my parents were, and when I had started talking, there was no one behind us either. But by the grace of the universe, at that exact moment, a car turned onto the road. The guy saw it, looked at me, and sped off so fast he left skid marks. I have never run faster in my life, and I was looking behind me every few seconds and thought he would be waiting for me at every intersection I had to cross. I was shaking. I was so scared and relieved when I got to that goddamn dog park. I told my parents everything and my mom called the cops. They took a statement but said it would just help if something actually happened to someone else. The weird part was, I was having trouble getting my story out. I was so upset, and before I gave a description of the car, the cop asked, "Was it a red Buick?" He wouldn't tell us why, but that just added to my feeling that I had just narrowly escaped something awful.